Does anybody really believe it? I just got done talking about all this stuff a week ago. People get angry when you talk about the Pope selling something like Zyklon B to the Nazi fucking camps and act like, oh no, it can't be so. And they get angry when you talk about this German rat singer who quit, the last Pope, after the chemical salesman fucking died. And, well, they get mad when you talk about the Nazi war criminal, the Pope. They send bad things. I'm just telling you what we all already know is what I thought. And as it turns out, it's just coming out now. I mean, my God, these fucking popes, man. The archives. You know, I mean, there's the guy that wrote a book. He was talking about it. He said, what you have to understand is that the Pope was looking at the future of the church. And it really looked like the Nazis were going to win the war. Okay, so God's on your side now. He's like, And you'd say, okay, that makes some kind of sense. But then you take into consideration that he fucking sent everybody around Rome and fucking arrested every Jew at every house they could find. They had names. And they took them all to the Vatican and then fucking probably baptize people against their will like they do to children so they can take the kid and raise it in a fucking orphanage as a fucking whore. Just because, well, if it's baptized, it's in the hands of God. You can't be walking around with a heathen like you. Yeah. And so they took these people, like 1,200 of them, and some, like 250 were baptized voluntarily, is what they said. So they took them somewhere else they lived, and then the other 1,000 and change, they got taken out of the walls of the Vatican. They were held in custody at Vatican City, Fantiguan. Wudababa Shifantiganran. That means my father's man from Vatican City. Yeah. Vatican. They held them custody there. And then they put them on like buses and trains and everything that you might want to see in an old fucking Nazi movie when the Nazi is the hero and you're watching the fucking monsters get sent down the rails. Go, motherfucker, burn. You know, I guess you have to look at it from both sides. But that must be the way Pope Pius XII was looking at it. He's like, And he not only went in a way that was going to support the church in the future, but he also put over 1,000 of these poor bastards that he'd run his police around fucking locking up, put them on a fucking bus out of town to Auschwitz, out of country. That's international trafficking right there, human trafficking. They moved them across borders into Poland, and within a week they were fucking dead. If I remember this thing right, I watched it, I was like, holy fuck, or I read it, one or the other. It's one or the other, I go back and forth. And oh yeah, that was watched. And so now it's all come out in the open by people that are on TV and respectable, and you trust them, and you still fucking gonna bitch about me. Isn't it funny? All these fucking popes. So I looked up the 3 miracles. They're trying to canonize this fucker that put those Jews to their death. Humans being, you know, humans being. Yeah, so much for God's love of all men. And I know that to be a saint, you have to have 3 miracles. And they're trying to make this guy a fucking saint. Like I said last week when everybody got, a few people got pissed, maybe one person got pissed off. You just want to make all the popes saints. It's good for advertising. So I decided to look up his 3 miracles that it requires to become a saint, to be canonized. All I needed to read was one. It was about a guy in 2005 that's wife was in the process of having a baby, like during gestation, just she's not having the baby yet, and she got diagnosed with fucking lymphoma. Remember, this is his first miracle. He's been dead for years. There's nobody living in this story that is something wonderful. It's just a man telling a story, and he oh geez, she's got lymphoma of some sort, and he prays. This is his story. This is his story. He prays to Pope John Paul II. And Pope John Paul II he shows up and he says, what? There's really nothing I can do about it, but I've got the guy. And he said in his dream, he saw a tall, lean man he didn't recognize. And he's like, oh, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do with this, the husband. And 2 days later, he was in the damn Walgreens or some shit, and he saw a magazine cover with a picture of Pope Pius XII, whatever his name, John Pius. And that's the guy from my dream. He said he'd never seen him before. But what you have to realize, if this guy was in that store 2 days after the dream, it was probably, he was in the same store within 2 to 4 days, even the day before the dream. And this is one of those dreams. There are many kinds of dreams, but this is just one of those dreams that's picking up segments. He's praying to Pope John Paul. He had seen the picture of Pope John Pius, whatever his name, the 12th is, 13. And it's in his head, and he's ignoring it. He doesn't give a shit about it, but it's the static, not static, it's the creative, it's the dynamic fucking memories bouncing around our heads looking for a place to fucking plant themselves in the files for a few days after we see them. This is one of those dreams that was based on something he saw. So, and then he saw it again, and it validated it. There's a fucking guy, I mean, he didn't have a fucking supernatural dream. And that's the first miracle? Huh. You need 3 to be a goddamn pope. A saint. Whether you're a pope or not. But if I'm on the committee and I can't even get through the first dream, miracle, I'm not going to watch the next 2. I know it's the same fucking garbage. It's a dream about 2 dead men with a woman. Oh, and then in the end, the doctor said, oh, it's amazing. We questioned whether did we misdiagnose that? Of course they did. What do doctors do? They love misdiagnosing things so they can cut into somebody's head and get in a fucking journal. And maybe, by that mistake, somebody can learn from it. Do you believe it? People get mad at me. And they've got it right there on PBS telling everybody the fucking Pope was a Nazi sympathizer, just like I said.